what's happened with the Trump administration, how that's devastated our response to HIV.
Now we're not giving medication to foreign nationals who have TB. That thing is going to spread.
Because diseases don't care about your passport. They don't care about your citizenship. The thing that we as South Africans particularly understand quite deeply, it's the concept of ubuntu, umntu ngumntu ngabantu. We are because our neighbors are. We are because...
We're here with Khanyisa Mapipa, the head of the Health Rights Program at Section 27. How's it, Khanyisa? Welcome to Ordinary Activist Radio.
Hi, thank you for having us.
It's great to have you with. I know that you've been involved in all sorts of exciting things. I've been dying to speak to you. So, maybe you can tell us, we've got a whole lot of stuff happening at Dudula at the moment, with Dudula at the moment blocking access to clinics, and maybe we can just start there and you can tell us a little bit about your views around what's happening.
Yeah. So, as Section 27, we represent people who require access to healthcare services. We are a law centre that specialises in access to healthcare as well as access to basic education, and we've been involved in a number of cases, some of which some of your listeners might be familiar with, like the Life Esidimeni case, where we represented the family members of the deceased patients in that case. We've also represented learners in Limpopo around the pit latrine toilets, as well as the family of Michael Gomabe. And we've I think the first case that we did was the case that brought ARVs to South Africa, really helping millions of people in the country to gain access to a dignified existence. And so we've continued with that motto and that way of doing our work. And recently we've been faced with a number of people seeking access to healthcare and seeking our services. And these people have been immigrants in the country, some of which are fully documented immigrants, and some of which even have citizenship, and still have had to be, have had these challenges of been refused access. And so we have tried our level best to try and assist, just as we've assisted everybody before. So that's the work that we've done, and we continue to do around access to healthcare.
Should we talk first about that judgment you talked about access to ARVs? Because, and maybe I can just give some context, was last week we went out to a building and there were about 30 migrants in the building, and probably about 15, 20 of them were getting chronic medication from clinics and had tried to go to Hillbrow, Yeovil and Jeppe Clinic and had been stopped at the door with people asking for their IDs. Now obviously if somebody doesn't get their ARVs, that's pretty serious. What kind of happens if somebody doesn't get their ARVs?
So, I mean, we saw this in the early 2000s, and many of the people who listen to show will know the devastation that we witnessed in those times, with millions of people dying as a result of not having access to life-saving ARVs. But more than that, it places such a burden on the health system when there are interventions that are available but are not getting to the right people. I think one of the things that we've kind of lost track of is that as a society we live in and among migrant persons. We interact with migrant people all the time, and so when it comes to diseases like HIV, like TB, it's very difficult because diseases don't care about your passport. They don't care about your citizenship. If you are sitting next to someone in a taxi who has TB, you will have TB as well. So denying them access is basically denying yourself access, and then further burdening the health system, because when that person ends up in a critical condition and needs to get access to health services, the Department of Health can't deny them that. So I mean, it's a constitutionally protected right to emergency medical services, and so it creates an additional burden on the health system, but it also endangers lives. It endangers the lives of foreign nationals, but it also endangers South African lives. Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, just as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of the funding model that we've kind of gone for in our healthcare, where we've prioritized funding at primary healthcare, so that we can avoid spending on this. So when on tertiary and more expensive care, and part of the thinking there is exactly what you're saying, is so that we can prevent this higher burden at a later stage. I'm very concerned that what we're going to see is, what you've just mentioned with regard to TB. We've got in South Africa an MDB, is that what it's called? MDB TB, which is incredibly resilient and is very difficult to fight. It's drug resistant by nature, and that's why we've invested so much money into combating it. And now we're not giving medication to foreign nationals who have TB. That thing is going to spread within our communities, and it's going to go into those very communities where these people are being chased away. So how can they say that they're putting South Africa first when they're literally putting South Africans at risk? To me, that's what just blows my mind when it comes to the...
Yeah, and I think, this is something that most people might not know, but TB is still the leading cause of death in this country.
Wow.
So when we look at disease and death by disease, TB outshines all of them.
Wow.
And it's precisely because it is so difficult to get people on treatment and also to keep people on treatment. And so the virus keeps changing and mutating and becomes drug resistant. And so if people are not able to get on treatment or not able to keep on treatment, that virus is going to become drug resistant, and we're going to end up seeing new and stronger strains of it, and it's going to consume us.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, to come a bit more to, I suppose, your area of expertise in the law. What are people's rights in terms of accessing chronic medication? So, chronic medication in South Africa, we talk about HIV drugs, we talk about diabetic drugs, blood pressure, I suppose, is also chronic, ARVs and TB. Are there others? Have I missed some out? I might have.
So in terms of the law, and I like that you mentioned primary healthcare services. The National Health Act, Section 4(3)(a) and B is very much relevant here. Section 3.
So that's the National Health Act, Section
4, subsection 3, subsection B.
Okay, we're going to try to get that on the screen here so that you've got that.
Yes. So subsection B speaks to free primary health services for everyone.
Wow.
So it does not discriminate in terms of citizenship, in terms of documentation status, and this is something that is trite in our law. It's accepted. It's not even disputed by the Department of Health, and the reason for it is because our health system actually depends on the functioning of our primary healthcare services. We understand, and at a basic scientific level, we understand that if you deny people access to primary healthcare services, like we've explained with TB and ARVs, you risk the health of the entire system.
The population
You're actually
itself.
putting at risk the whole of the entire system. And so if those services have hindrances to them, if they have barriers to accessing those services, then that risk becomes, it escalates. It becomes much more than what we as a society would probably be able to handle. And so that section provides for free health services.
At a primary level.
at a primary level.
Okay.
And the idea is that if you get good health services at a primary level, then you won't need tertiary health care.
Wow.
Right? If you've got preventative services at a primary level, if you've got services that are able to detect diseases and issues early at a primary level, then you won't actually need to escalate to a tertiary or a district hospital. The other thing that is in our law, that is embedded in our law, is the rights of mothers and children. So lactating women and lactating and pregnant women and children under the age of 6. And again,
so lactating women is women who are breastfeeding.
Yeah, women who are breastfeeding.
For the ignorant men like me, that you need to educate these lactating women. Lactating women, pregnant moms, and children under the age of 6.
Under the age of 6. And again, all of these laws have scientific basis to them.
Yes.
Because we understand how diseases work. I mean, we've come a very long way as a human race. You know, we have to make sure that these things are embedded in our laws so that we can survive. So subsection A, section 4.3 subsection A speaks primarily to
of
the National Health Act.
So just go through that again. So it's the National Health Act, subsection 4, subsection 3, subsection A.
Yeah, section 4, subsection 3, subsection A.
Okay.
So that speaks primarily to pregnant and lactating women who are breastfeeding, and children under the age of 6. And now the rationale behind that specific section in the law is because we understand that before the age of 6, primarily for children need to get vaccinated, right? And there's a reason for that. We have had diseases like polio, which have become extinct in our society as we know it. But we know that if they were to return, particularly if they were to return in a mutated way, it would wipe us out, right? So we have created systems that will protect us and protect ourselves. We saw during COVID-19 that children were the biggest carrier of COVID-19.
I've got such a recent memory of this.
Bringing it home, bringing it to the elderly parents, elderly people who are raising them. And so, you know, making sure that children are protected makes sure that we as a society is protected. So that's the rationale behind these laws and why primary healthcare services, particularly for pregnant women who are obviously pregnant and carrying children, and for lactating women who are obviously breastfeeding children, and for children under the age of 6 is so important.
So, I mean, I think that part of what, you know, we often think, okay, well, we've got to have compassion for children under the age of 6. We've got to have compassion for pregnant women, lactating moms. And that's the reason that we're providing this care. But what I'm learning from you today is it's not just about being compassionate. It's not just about the rights and the dignity, although it is about that as well. It's actually for the common good of the whole of society that we need to provide primary health care for populations. That's got to do with chronic medication as well as vaccinations and primary healthcare in general.
I mean, I think it's an that person is not surviving, I'm not surviving. And that is, I mean, that's put into our medical, how we deal with medicine, how we deal with the law, because we understand the interconnectedness of our society. And so whether we want to look at it from an economic perspective, whether you want to look at it from a dignity, human rights perspective, or whether you want to look at it from a purely altruistic and
caring and compassionate perspective. Exactly.
It is the same thing. Yeah. We are completely and utterly dependent on the survival of. We are only as good as the weakest person in our society. And if we don't understand that now, then we are risking a catastrophe in the next couple months and in the next couple of years. And especially given the global politics of what is happening in society. It's a thing that we as South Africans particularly understand quite deeply. It's not something that is unique to medicine or unique to the law. It's the concept of ubuntu, umntu ngumntu ngabantu. We are because our neighbors are. We are because the next person is. Because we are completely and utterly dependent on the next person's survival. now adding further and further pressures to the system is really not the time to do that.
Okay, so we have a clear scientific motivation for doing this. The legal basis, the National Health Act, the Section 3, subsection A and subsection B, which I've now learned, and I'm now quoting, isn't that amazing? It's great. You can be educated on Ordinary Activist Show here. But I want to know specifically, what are the obligations of clinics to provide this? And when people are being turned away from clinics, what should clinics do? When people are being turned away from hospitals, what should hospitals do? And then in terms of law enforcement, when we have Operation Dudula standing at the door and asking for IDs, what should law enforcement be doing? And are there court orders, or is there case law around this? What does the law say about this?
So the responsibility for ensuring access to healthcare lies with the Department of Health, right?
Okay.
And that, our courts have ruled that encapsulate not just saying the medication is here, or saying that you've built the hospital and there's people inside there that can help someone, but actually making sure that a person can gain access to those things.
Yeah.
So it's not just access in the sense of making it available, but also facilitating that access is also part of the right.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that the Department of Health has the responsibility to ensure safe environment for healthcare users or people who are seeking healthcare services. It has a responsibility to ensure that there are no barriers to entry, that there is no inhibitants into getting into a healthcare facility.
How do they practically do that?
So practically, that could look like involving the South African police services in order to make sure that the services or that the inhibitants that cause
the people that are
barrier,
trying to stop them need to be
removed. So what ordinarily we should have seen in the instances of what we're seeing with the likes of Operation Dudula and March, what we should have seen is a coming together and a working together of the Department of Health as well as the South African Police Services to make sure that the right to access to healthcare is realized in the full sense of access as a word.
Yes.
And so what that should have looked like, as I said, is getting the police to come even man the gates of the hospital, arresting people who are trying to become a barrier to accessing healthcare, and then charging them under the law, because there are consequences to doing these things under the law.
Would there be a law that people are breaking if they're preventing access to healthcare?
Yes, there definitely is. The National Health Act, you're not allowed to, in terms of the National Health Act, you're not allowed to provide to create a barrier or to inhibit someone from accessing healthcare services, not as a healthcare worker, and healthcare workers know this, not as an ordinary individual, not as ancillary staff. You're just not allowed to keep someone from accessing that. But even more than that, if the person that you're keeping from accessing health services somehow either succumbs to their disease or dies as a result of it, you as an individual are liable for that. You can be arrested for homicide as a result of that. And so the law is quite broad, is quite clear, not only in terms of legislation like the National Health Act, but also in terms of criminal enforcement or criminal legislation. Today, you've seen how what's happened with the Trump administration taking away funding from South Africa, how that's devastated our response to HIV.
So another person that I helped last week, his daughter, 12 years old, cerebral palsy, and born in South Africa at Charlotte Maxeke Hospital. The child's mom died. The child's father is a Zimbabwean who used to be on an asylum permit, which has now lapsed, but the child theoretically is South African but is still undocumented. Okay, and this child had pneumonia, and again taken to Yeovil Clinic, Jeppe Clinic, and Hillbrow Clinic. So we're taken to 3 clinics, and all 3 turned them away. Now, fortunately, what they did was the father unfortunately begs for a living, which I still don't understand because he's got a master's degree in communication. He was a teacher in Zimbabwe, and it's because of the collapse of the Zimbabwean economy and that he's come to South Africa. But nonetheless, he begs for a living, and he managed to get some friends together, and they took this child to Clicks and saw the doctor at Clicks, or the nurse at Clicks, and they managed to get medicines. Fortunately, the baby was treated. But again, there's a baby, not a baby, a young person, 12 years old, being denied healthcare. Now, even just the denial of healthcare, not being able to get access, and all of the hassles that this family had to go through, there's liabilities, I suppose, that are created.
Yeah, no, definitely. If that child had died or something significant had happened to that child as a result of being kept out of the health system, then not only the people outside of the system, but if healthcare workers were involved in keeping that child outside of the system, then they are also liable. They are liable not criminally, and also could lose their jobs. So that is actually what people are taking on by doing this, because the right to life in South Africa is absolute. It's not like one of the other rights that has to be weighed up sometimes against other rights. It's completely up. That's why we don't have the death penalty. And so if you're going to keep someone from getting access to healthcare that would otherwise help them live, then you are actively participating in their death.
This is amazing.
And just one other thing. So the court, what courts do is they apply something we call the but-for test, which is but for this person's actions and behavior, whatever it is, would this person have received healthcare, or would this person have received medication, whatever it is, and then lived. If the court finds that but for your actions this person would have lived, or this person would have gone to get access to healthcare and then would have been okay, then that is the first leg of determining your guilt in their death.
Wow. This is intense. I've really showed this video. So one of the things I've noticed when we've gone to these clinics is that there's 2 or 3 kinds of security guards that are at the doors. So first of all, some of the clinics have got private security. Some of the clinics now, as a result of the Dudula actions, have brought in people from JMPD, and they're standing at the doors. And then next to those people are standing Operation Dudula members or other members of the community. So you're saying to me that it's not only this Operation Dudula person, this person who's working for JMPD could be held liable, and this person who's working for a private security company. So as a radio show was talking to the working class, let's go and talk to our working class brothers and sisters and just say that this is a risk to your job, because, and not just your job, you could also be charged criminally in terms of this. So that is quite a scary I mean, just as I'm listening to you, my mind is just going all over the place with the implications of this. It's very scary.
Yeah. And I don't think people quite realize just what it is that they're doing. Just from it's multi-layered. So you're impacting someone else's life, and you're becoming an event in their lives that changes the trajectory of their lives forever.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, you're doing something horrible.
Wow.
But also legally, you're doing something that could potentially change the trajectory of your life forever. And I don't think people quite understand that.
Wow, this is a lot. There is one other area I just want to go to before we end this, and it's just been absolutely fascinating. And I wanted to talk and ask your question and perspective about this. So when I've gone to some of the clinic staff are saying that they've been threatened by Operation Dudula, that if they provide services to foreign nationals, that there'll be consequences for them. In some of the clinics where there's particularly high levels of xenophobia, and in my work I know there are these xenophobic hotspots, places where there's, for example, hostels, etc. There's been xenophobic attacks of numerous people who help foreign nationals in those areas. Now, what should the state be doing? What are the obligations of the state towards those workers, towards protecting them? Maybe we can just start there. Yeah.
I mean, there are basic protections that the Department of Health, in the instances, is liable to protect those people as an employer. So just from the basis of that, these are employees within the department. They ought to be protected by the department. And if there are individuals who are threatening people for providing or doing their jobs, because they're doing their jobs and providing healthcare services, then the department needs to get involved in that. But also, the action of a threat is also a criminal action, right? Yeah. So that is also something that the department should be following up, investigating, taking on, and then referring to the police, because it's already a crime, right? So from the level of protection by employer, the department has a responsibility, but also from the level of just the fact that they've been threatened, that is a criminal act in itself, and that is something that should be referred to the police for investigation and then prosecution.
So this goes to the heart of our Constitution, equality, our Bill of Rights, that you and me, we're both the same. We have equal rights. We have equal value. It doesn't matter about my nationality, my birth, my sexual origin, my sexuality, my nationality, my whatever. What matters is who needs the care the most urgently, and we've got to protect the right to life. Sure, this has been so interesting. Last little set of questions, and maybe I shouldn't say last set of questions. Next question is just about, so listeners on this radio station will be health seekers themselves. So if you were to say to a foreign national health seeker who's been turned away from a clinic by Operation Dudula, what should they do?
So the first thing which they should do is likely to call the police. But I hesitate to say that they should call the police because we know what's been happening. Although the police do have a responsibility and a duty to come and assist. What we've seen is an infiltration of xenophobia into the police system as well, and so it becomes difficult to encourage people to do that. We as an organization have been assisting people to gain access to healthcare services, so people are more than welcome to approach us, and
where are your offices? Do they phone you or call you?
Yes.
So here are the details on screen. Section 27. Tell us the address.
So the address is 87 De Korte Street
in
Braamfontein, Johannesburg. And then the phone number, I think you'll just put it on the screen as well as
there it is.
Information. Our email address is info@section27.org.za.
Great. And one last thing. One of the things that I've found particularly useful in the work that I've done, solidarity work, and I want to just say to listeners, if you're a South African or you have any form of privilege and you have a neighbor who is struggling to get access to healthcare, go with them to the clinic and walk with them in. Refuse Operation Dudula's commands. Just walk past them. They don't have authority to stop you. Just walk past them and get into the clinic. That's my suggestion to you. Go with some friends, take friends with you, and just outnumber them and make sure that you get access to healthcare. It is your right. I know that is, that's action that we can do. I think as South Africans, we've got to say enough is enough. We stand for human rights. We have a constitution. This has been fought for. And this has been a fascinating interview. Thank you so much for coming on. And I hope we can have you on again soon. And thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you.